Hey guys, Evan again here from Tech Kings, and today we have the only small form factor GTX 670 that money can buy, the ASUS DC Mini. Alright, so let's take a look at what we have. Alright, ditching that, getting rid of some packaging, and we did you guys the service of taking off the anti-static bag beforehand. So obviously here we have a user manual with every language you can imagine. I know because I cross-checked all of them with Wikipedia. We also have a driver disk complete with GPU tweak, you know, in the event that you can't find the internet, which I guess happens from time to time. It's nice to see ASUS include their GPU overclocking utility GPU tweak on the disk. Should save you a download if you would prefer physical media instead. We also have a dual 6-pin to 8-pin PCIe power cable, so that's nice if you don't have a 6+2 pin on your power supply. And of course, here is the card itself, the DC Mini. The only small form factor GTX 670, as we alluded to in the intro. And if, let's see, I think I have some, oh, sweet, bonus. Oh, yes, here it is. Okay. This is the reference GTX 670 design, and compared to the DC Mini, as you can see pretty obviously, it's a lot shorter. It's just a little bit wider, but should give you all of the performance you would want out of a GTX 670, but a lot more flexibility for small form factor builds, or just to keep your build looking nice and clean. Oh yeah. Okay, so taking a look at the card, the first thing that'll stand out is this kind of edgy red and black color scheme, similar to what you might see in the styling of ASUS's ROG boards, with a little bit of direct CU Mini branding. One unique thing that you'll also quickly notice is this interesting looking fan. So the inner part of the fan has an impeller design, where the outer fan has a pretty typical blower fan design. So what this will do is, in addition to just blowing down like a lot of fans will, or just kind of blowing out in all directions, it does a little bit of both. So you can see that there's there's fins underneath the fan, and also these big vertical fins all the way around. So what this will do is kind of blow down, and the impeller will kind of blow the air outwards, so you get a lot more efficient cooling out of the same fan footprint. And then that'll also help direct a little more air straight out the back of the case. Also, one other of the little marketable features you'll find on the box is this direct power here. So what this is a little, almost like a heatsink cover for the SAP components, which is the super alloy power capacitors that sit right behind the GPU. It's as close as you can get. If you know anything about electrical resistance, the shorter the element, the more efficient it will be. So they put it literally right behind the GPU, as opposed to trying to find space on the PCB next to it somewhere. So that allows it to be a little bit more efficient. And when it comes to overclocking, any little bit of added efficiency goes a long way. All right, and taking a look at the back, we see dual link DVI, and full-size display port and HDMI port. So you have a pretty full loadout in terms of your I/O. All right, and then going back to what we kind of talked about or hinted at with the direct power, with the SAP super alloy power, underneath the heatsink are all of your power delivery components. That's your capacitors, your inductors, and your MOSFETs. And what super alloy power is basically saying that those components have all been upgraded, so you get more stability, a little better lifespans, better durability, and overall you'll just end up with a better experience because of what you don't notice, which is the instability and the other poor things that can happen with graphics cards. And the other thing, so what does direct CU even mean? So what that is this entire block here is made out of copper, and the copper contacts directly with the GPU. And this card, in order to shrink it down, to get more efficient cooling actually uses a horizontal vapor chamber. So this entire copper block has a special vapor in it that allows it to more efficiently convect heat, and which gets it to the fins and blah blah blah, and it gets it away from your GPU itself. The other thing, the dual 6-pin connectors have been consolidated into one 8-pin connector, and as I mentioned, if your power supply doesn't already have a 6+2 pin, comes with an adapter, so you should be covered. And taking these caps off, you can see your dual bridges for SLI, so this will support up to quad SLI if you have some ridiculous small form factor system. All right, Morty here's had enough of the technical mumbo jumbo. Let's go play some games. All right, diving into Battlefield 3 with max settings. At 1080p, we get 46.4 frames per second. And at WQHD, 2560 by 1440, we see a very playable 40.6 with minimums above 30 frames per second, which is great to see. In Far Cry 3, which is a very demanding game, we see 35.5 frames per second at 1080p, and WQHD we get a very choppy 19.5. For Batman Arkham City, we see a very respectable 44 frames per second at 1080p, and for WQHD we see 33 frames per second average. In Splinter Cell Blacklist, we're seeing 72 frames per second at 1080p and 48.5 with WQHD. The Unreal 3 engine is very efficient on NVIDIA GPUs, as we've seen. In Borderlands 2, which is also an NVIDIA optimized game, we see 107.2 frames per second at 1080p and even a whopping 68.9 frames per second at WQHD resolutions. And lastly, Call of Duty Black Ops 2, we see about 60 frames per second at WQHD and just shy of 100 frames per second at 1080p, which is obviously pretty high. It's not a particularly graphically intensive game. And even though the card comes with a factory pre-overclock, the GPU tweak utility can be used to give yourself a little extra free horsepower. Using a simple slider or a text box to enter the values you want, it's very easy to adjust the GPU boost clock, the minimum GPU voltage, the memory clock, power targets, and even set user-defined fan speed ramp profiles so you can balance card noise with cooling performance. The default settings include basic limitations that prevent first-time or beginning overclockers from being able to damage their card, yet it still includes items like enhanced voltage range for more advanced overclockers. The GPU tweak interface also includes a copy of GPU-Z, which shows your card's current settings, as well as a full monitoring suite which shows you the condition of your card, including GPU temperature, voltage, and fan speeds. Also included are some basic features like Live Update, which will help you keep your vBIOS up to date, as well as hotkey macros, and also basic tuning and interface settings. And despite its small size, the GTX 670 DC Mini doesn't give much up in the way of performance or overclocking headroom over full-size cards. It'll allow you to play the latest greatest games at WQHD resolutions with minimal sacrifices, and is priced right at around $300, which is where you'll find most of the other GTX 670s available on the market. So all things considered, you're getting the performance of a full-size GTX 670 with the added benefit of smaller form factor, one less power port, and a unique aesthetic. So if that's what you're looking for, this is probably the right card for you. Thank you for watching. We couldn't do it without you. Why don't you hit us up on Facebook and the Twitter? Like if you like gummy worms and stuff. Leave us a comment. We'd love to hear from you. And of course, subscribe to us. We'd love to have you around. Please? Please?